in complete swing. We had Sri Krishna Janmashtami, and then we had Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. And so now here we are, trying to, in our own small and big ways, honor Srila Prabhupada, honor every single sacrifice that he undertook, honor his over 40 years of preparation, and somehow or other create the miracle that reverberates throughout the entire universe. There were so many times that Srila Prabhupada says that when, especially those who appear in Western bodies, begin to chant the holy names loudly, and they begin to have so many different gatherings of great souls, great sages like Narada Muni himself gathered to see what the commotion is, because for them this is an unprecedented event, a time when quote-unquote mlechas, quote-unquote yavanas, quote-unquote all of these those who have taken a birth which seems as though the karmic debt is stacked against them, and none of it seems as though they should have such access to the holy name. And even if you get access to the holy name, developing any kind of attachment to the holy name is even more difficult. When those people chant the holy names, then all of the devatas come, because they think this should not be happening. And somehow or other, due to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not only is it happening, but it's going on, combating Kali Yuga quite nicely. So just as Kali Yuga is always progressing, as my mother likes to say, so is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's golden age. It's also progressing, thanks to Srila Prabhupada, and thanks to anyone and everyone who comes to sincerely take up just an effulgence of that mission. It's like being privy to Krishna holding up Govardhan Hill. Krishna was doing everything, but all of the cowherd men and the cowherd boys still brought their sticks. They all arranged themselves around the hill, and they all held up their sticks. And according to Mother Yashoda, she's thinking, my son is not doing anything. How can my son do anything? My son is still my little boy. I know everything is due to somehow the strength of Nandaraj, my dearest husband. And I know that everything is happening due to the strength of Balaram, who protects Krishna just as the eyelid protects the eye. So I know that my boy can't do anything, because even if he doesn't eat for half an hour, he begins to get weak and he feels like he's going to faint. So this is not my son. So somehow or other, we're like that, trying to somehow add into Srila Prabhupada's great mission, coming with our little sticks to try and look as though we're holding up the Govardhan Hill of Grace that is inundating so many far-off corners of the world, like New York. And what can we really do except somehow or other parrot the wonderful things that we've heard from Srila Prabhupada? Somehow we can try and give each other encouragement, somehow give each other solace, a little bit of hope, give a little strength to each other as we embark upon these great austerities known as EKADASI vrats and Bhagavatam vrats and all of these different vrats that come about. So we're here to give each other strength, give each other encouragement, cheer each other on, even if it seems as though everybody else is running the marathon and we're kind of on the side, like, here's some water. It works. Every bit helps. Even just hearing the glories of Ekadashi, we'll see, can move mountains. So without further ado, Om Ajnanate Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, kripa sindubhya eva cha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So this is Aja Ekadashi or Anada Ekadashi. Sri Yudhishthir Maharaj said, O Janardhan, protector of all living entities, please tell me the name of the Ekadashi that occurs during the dark fortnight of the month of Bhadrapad, August, September. This is a very curious story which really elucidates the power of Krishna's mercy and how that mercy doesn't look the same for everyone. Really kinds of sheds a light on how this mercy looks very different for every spirit soul, for every pure devotee. And this is a shining example of how devotees are not exempt from the workings of the material world. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna then replied, O king, hear me attentively. The name of this sin-removing Ekadashi is Aja. Any person who fasts completely on this day and worships Rishikesh, the master of the senses, becomes free of all reactions to his sins. Even one who simply hears about this Ekadashi is freed from his past sins. O king, there is no better day than this in all the earthly and heavenly worlds. This is true without a doubt. There once lived a famous king named Harishchandra, who was the emperor of the world and a person of great truth and integrity. His wife's name was Chandramati, and he had a son named Lohitashva. By the force of destiny, however, Harishchandra lost his great kingdom and sold his wife and son. The pious king himself became a menial servant of a dog-eater who made him guard a crematorium. Yet, even while doing such menial service, he did not forsake his truthfulness and good character, just as somaras, even when mixed with some other liquid, does not lose its ability to bestow immortality. The king passed many years in this condition. Then one day he sadly thought, What shall I do? Where shall I go? How can I be delivered from this plight? In this way, he drowned in an ocean of anxiety and sorrow. I often like to examine these pastimes, not from a lens of being so far away in history, but trying to look at it through a modern sense. So if there were a person who was guarding crematoriums and graveyards and who worked in funeral homes and all of these different things, would we think that they were going to be the most perfect candidate for God's mercy? Would we think this is the perfect person to preach to, and not preach at, but actually preach to with compassion, as though they were an equal, and not even an equal, as though they were a person far more advanced than us? It begs the question, how do we look at others? Are we seeing them only according to their present circumstance? Or are we seeing them with a view of an understanding of, I have no idea where this person may have come from in the past, but I can understand that everyone is Krishna's friend. Because Shri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, dearmost friend of every living entity. So, are we actually imbibing that? What a challenge to think when we see people that we don't think are on a very spiritual path, but inside that person's heart is a Krishna who is their dearmost friend. That same Krishna who is my dearmost friend. Are these the people that we think of preaching to as though maybe once upon a time they had been a most pious king? One day, a great sage happened by, and when the king saw him, he happily thought, "Ah, Lord Brahma has created Brahmins just to help others." Harishchandra paid his respectful obeisances to the sage, whose name was Gautam Muni. With joined palms, the king stood before Gautam Muni and narrated his pitiful story. Gautam Muni was astonished to hear the king's tale of woe. He thought, "How has this mighty king been reduced to collecting clothes from the dead?" Gautama Muni became very much compassionate toward Harishchandra and instructed him on the process of fasting for purification. Gautama Muni said, "O king, during the dark fortnight of the month of Bhadrapad, there occurs an especially meritorious EKADASI named Aja or Annada, which removes all sins. Indeed, this EKADASI is so auspicious that if you simply fast on that day and perform no other austerity, all your sins will be nullified. By your good fortune, it is coming in just 7 days. So, I urge you to fast on this day and remain awake throughout the night. If you do so, all the reactions of your past sins will come to an end. O Harishchandra, I have come here because of your past pious deeds. Now, all good fortune to you in the future." So saying, the great sage Sri Gautam Muni immediately disappeared from their vision. King Harishchandra followed Gautam Muni's instructions concerning fasting on the sacred day of Aja Ekadashi. O Maharaj Yudhishthir, because the king fasted on that day, the reactions to his previous sins were completely destroyed at once. O lion among kings, just see the influence of this Ekadashi fast. It immediately vanquishes whatever miseries one may be suffering as a result of past karmic sinful activities. Thus, all Harishchandra's miseries were relieved. Just by the power of this wonderful Ekadashi, he was reunited with his wife and son, who had died, but were now revived. In the heavenly regions, the devas, demigods, began beating on their celestial kettle drums and showering down flowers upon Harishchandra, his queen, and their son. By the blessings of the Ekadashi fast, he regained his kingdom without difficulty. Moreover, when King Harishchandra left the planet, his relatives and all his subjects too went with him to the spiritual world. O Pandava, whoever fasts on Aja Ekadashi is surely freed from all his sins and ascends to the spiritual world. And whosoever hears and studies the glories of this Ekadashi achieves the merit gained by performing a horse sacrifice. These are the glories of Aja Ekadashi. And within Krishna book, chapter 88, which is entitled The Deliverance of Lord Shiva, there is a very interesting conversation, and Shukadev Goswami begins to explain to Maharaj Parikshit what happens when a devotee encounters suffering. Because isn't that something that we all would kind of like to know? We get upon this path of self-realization. We think, I'm going to embark upon this endeavor and try, by hook or by crook, somehow or other, to become a devotee of Krishna. And all of my miseries will be eradicated. And then we embark on the path. And it seems as though, externally at least, all of the miseries are not eradicated. How is this possible? What happens when I am to believe with faith, without a doubt, that Sri Krishna just told Yudhishthir, Maharaj, Emperor of the world, that all of his miseries would be eradicated by one who even just hears the glories of Aja Ekadashi, except after these narrations, the Pandavas go on to have untold miseries, years of exile, wife insulted, family with death threats, incredibly inventive death threats, having to run for their lives, having to enter into a ghastly warfare where millions of lives were lost. All of this sits heavily on the head of Yudhishthira Maharaj, so much so that we see in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Yudhishthira Maharaj is thoroughly traumatized and depressed. And any of us would be also, if we had to really take on the burden of a ruler. And so we hear in this chapter 88, although by nature Krishna is always very satisfied, when Maharaj Yudhishthira asked the question about devotees going through suffering, the Lord became even more satisfied because this question and its answer would bear a great meaning for the entire Krishna-conscious society. Whenever Lord Krishna speaks about something to a specific devotee, it is meant not only for that devotee, but for all devotees, and indeed for the entire human society. Instructions by the Supreme Personality of Godhead are important even to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the other demigods, and if one does not take advantage of the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who descends within this world for the benefit of all living entities, he is certainly very unfortunate. So that also answers the question, because many times we can think of turning to Bhagavad Gita for a certain answer from our dearmost friend, and then our mind says, but he was talking to Arjuna, not you. What makes you think that the Lord of the universe, who was speaking to Arjuna, the same Lord of the universe who came to save Gajendra, who spoke words to Maharaj Ambarish, who spoke to great sages like Durvasa Muni, who has exhibited so many pastimes throughout Bhagavatam. We have volumes and volumes of pastimes and pure devotees who spent so much of their lives performing austerities. The Lord was speaking to them, not you. But now we have Srila Prabhupada promising us, giving us a very important, heavy instruction. These instructions by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is not meant only for that specific devotee, but for all devotees, and indeed for the entire human society. If one does not take advantage of the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who descends within this world for the benefit of all living entities, he is certainly very unfortunate. Lord Krishna answered the question of Maharaj Yudhishthira as follows. If I especially favor a devotee, and especially wish to care for him, the first thing I do is take away his riches. When the devotee becomes a penniless pauper, or is put into a comparatively poverty-stricken position, his relatives and family members no longer take interest in him, and in most cases, they give up their connection with him. The devotee then becomes doubly unhappy. First of all, the devotee becomes unhappy because his riches have been taken away by Krishna. And he is made even more unhappy when his relatives desert him because of his poverty. We should note, however, that when a devotee falls into a miserable condition in this way, it is not due to past impious activities known as karmaphala. The poverty of the devotee is a creation of the personality of Godhead. So sometimes when we hear about this pastime of Maharaj Harishchandra, who was known for truthfulness and the strength of his character, how could it be that he's put into a miserable condition? This is the working of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But let us not forget what the Supreme Lord said at the very beginning. If I especially favor a devotee and especially wish to care for him, yogakshemam vahamyaham, I carry what they lack. Personally. Vahami. Vahamyaham, I carry. right? So uh, there once was a Brahmin, and he was expert in studying the Bhagavad Gita. And he had made it his life's goal to study Bhagavad Gita. He comes to this very important verse. Yogakshemam Bahamyaham, this last line, I carry what they lack. And he thought, this can't be. How could it be that the Lord of the universe will carry anything? Preserve? Yes. He is the ultimate preserver. But carry? Maybe he'll make arrangements. And so he crossed it out 3 times and thought to write, Karamyaham, I will make arrangements. I will arrange for my devotee. And then he went out begging. And he and his wife were so poor that they had one good cloth between the two of them. And so she would wear the good cloth sometimes when she needed to. And then if he needed to go out begging, they would switch. He would wear the good cloth, go out begging, and then come back, and then they switch again. He goes out begging with the one good cloth that they had between the two of them. And she stayed home waiting for things that he would come back with when he went on Madhukari begging. He would come back with alms. She would cook the alms. Everything is good. There is a knock on her door. She goes to answer it. And there are 2 boys there. Very beautiful, captivating boys. Lotus petal eyes. One is dark like the night sky, and the other is fair like a mountain of crystal. She thinks, who are you? And they're both carrying big baskets. Baskets of grains and fruit. All kinds of vegetables. She thinks, what is all of this? And the darker boy says, oh, mother, we are friends of your husband. And we've come with all kinds of eatables. Please, please, please take them. They're very heavy. Yes, okay, please bring them in. I'll cook them immediately, but why don't you stay and see my husband? And the darker boy got a look on his face, which was very much afraid. He says, no. Your husband is very, very serious, and he's very, very cruel, and I can't stay here for very long. It doesn't sound like my husband at all. How could you say he's very cruel? But you all are good friends, and you brought all of these things for us? The younger boy says, yes, mother. If you don't believe me, just look. And he turns around, and he had gashes in his back. She thought, how could this be? He says, yes, this is the work of your husband. He is very, very strict. And so I can't stay here any longer, but you can let him know that we came and we brought all of these foods for you. Please, you cook them and be happy, and we'll go on our way. We don't want to incur any more of his wrath. And so the 2 boys left immediately, and she began to cook. Finally, when her husband arrived home, there was an incredible aroma from his home. But he thought, I have the one good cloth, and I have our begging bowl, which is now filled with some grains, but there seems to be an aroma coming from my own house, which was dilapidated, but looks a little bit better now. And how did this happen? And he enters in and he sees that his wife is there, and there is an entire meal. He says, oh, Devi, is this all for me? And she looks at him and she says, no, absolutely not. None of it is for you. I'm sorry. Devi, have you taken leave of your senses? How could this not be for me? She says, no, you are very cruel. You are very wicked. You are very miserly. And so none of this is for you. It has been arranged by providence somehow, but none of this can be yours. Why? She tells him the entire story. 2 boys came. They were carrying big baskets filled with more food than I could cook in this one day. Look, there's still much, much left over. And they said that they were friends of yours, but you were very cruel. And the one young boy, he turned around and there were gashes in his back. Gosh, I don't understand. What did these boys look like? Such boys like these I've never seen before. And she began to describe their wonderful, unearthly, otherworldly forms. And the Brahmin thought, I think I've made a mistake. And he goes and he says, again, what did the young boy have on his back? There were 3 big gashes. And immediately the Brahmin ran to his Bhagavad Gita. And he saw that those 3 gashes where he had crossed out, I carry. And he realized that the Lord of the universe meant that literally. He came to his own dilapidated home carrying all of the arrangements for what they would need for their life. He immediately began to apologize profusely, crying over his very own Bhagavad Gita, soothing it with his own tears. Lovingly, he patched up that paper with his own hands and then rewrote, Vahami, I carry. Not just that the Lord will make arrangements, but the Lord will personally carry what we lack. And so sometimes we think, how is it that the Lord is making arrangements to first take away everything the devotee has? But it is because the Lord wishes personally to care for the devotee. And if the Lord wishes personally to care for each and every devotee, how can he care for the devotee when we think we've got it all under control? When we think I'm doing all of this on my own merit, on my own strength, yes, the Lord will make some arrangements due to my own karma. The Lord says no. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wonderfully has a commentary on this specific verse itself, where he says that the Lord is thinking as a lover, as a father, as the head of a household, as a king, as every person who gives shelter. I lovingly take full responsibility for not only the material life of my devotee, but the spiritual life of my devotee. And we see this evident throughout the pages of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita, where young Gopakumar describes his fate and how the Lord says, I couldn't get you to turn your face toward me. I tried. For lifetimes I tried. But I could not do it without reworking and bending all of the rules of the universe that I myself put in place. And so when I could not think of anything else to do, I personally took the form of your Guru. How fortunate are we to have known a spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada? How fortunate are we that even though I can speak for myself, I can't speak for everyone else, but I can speak for myself. For lifetimes, I've been telling Krishna, I'm in charge, do not interfere. You have taken an oath on my head. And culturally, it is a very serious thing. If someone takes an oath on your head, the moment they break it, that is the end of your life. So now I've told my Lord, my best friend, you've taken an oath on my head. I'm in charge, you can't interfere. And so now my friend is spending lifetime after lifetime wondering, when will you turn your face toward me? You said you'd be back. And now we've spent lifetimes away from each other. Do you remember me at all? In fact, within the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord speaks to a soul and says, I am your very old friend. Somehow you don't recognize me, but we've been friends for a very long time. Come, tell me all your troubles. I promise I'll listen. This is all Krishna wants. Tell me all your troubles. I promise I'll listen. And when Krishna can't find a way in, he cheats because he's an expert cheater. He comes as the holy name, which is even more merciful than Krishna himself. Because the holy name no longer cares if our hearts are qualified or unqualified, clean or dirty, whether we are hoarders or not. The holy name can penetrate through all of that. And our dear most friend says, okay, you've asked me not to interfere, but you didn't say anything about my devotees. And then Krishna sends us Guru, appearing within the heart of Guru, with the very same Guru Tattva, which is none other than Lord Balaram, Lord Nityananda himself. How fortunate we are to have known such a spiritual master, to have somehow or other come in contact with such an incredible, venerable Vaishnav. And if we don't think that we've come in contact with Srila Prabhupada, we absolutely have. Even just this morning, every line of Krishna book, every line of Srimad Bhagavatam, every line that Srila Prabhupada painstakingly translated for all of us, puts us in direct contact with Srila Prabhupada. All we have to do is read one paragraph. We've barely read one paragraph from this chapter 88 of Krishna book, and we could spend days talking and thinking, ruminating on the many, many ways that Krishna does the most enigmatic thing. And he says, if I especially favor my devotee and I wish to care for them, I take everything away. Because then my devotee can no longer say, I'm in charge, you don't get to interfere. Then we have nothing. And when we have nothing, then we are running to Krishna. Please interfere. Do something, anything. I'll do whatever you want. And this is what Krishna has been waiting to hear for lifetimes. So, just as Mother Yashoda was thinking about doing nice things for Krishna, and then he troubled her so much by breaking butter pots and smearing yogurt all over the house and breaking down 2 big trees in the backyard, just when we think, Krishna, I'll do some nice devotional service for you, then Krishna loves to throw curveballs, putting obstacle after obstacle in our path. Why? Because that's what he does. He creates trouble for his near and dear ones. Why? Because then we become obsessed. If everything is lukewarm, if everything goes the way we think it should go, we often think that that's boring in love. Isn't it? So many times we're like, oh, the relationship is going too good. It's boring. That's not love. That's not passionate. It's not maddeningly in love. We don't understand calm love. We understand tumultuous, roller coaster types of love. So what do we think? Krishna doesn't understand that? Krishna knows us better than we know ourselves. And so Krishna says, the only way I'll get you to understand is if I make things tumultuous. If I give it some drama. And nobody does drama like Krishna. From appearing in the midst of a rainstorm, in the midst of monsoon season, at the darkest part of the night, in the darkest place in Kamsa's prison. Then, the job's not even done. Take me to Gokul. What? Across a river. Walk. Would any of us be able to trust God enough to do what Vasudeva did? Take me across a river. Have faith that these shackles will be broken. Have faith that the jail cell doors will open. Have faith that all of the guards will be fast asleep. You'll be invisible to any and all obstacles. Have faith then that the serpent Anantashesh will come and shield you with hoods. Have faith that somehow or other you will be able to cross a raging river which has been swelling with monsoon waters for a month and a half. And then have faith that you will bring back a baby girl, someone else's child, knowing full well what the fate of that child could be. Now that is also on your shoulders. Would any of us have that much faith in Krishna, trusting his process and his plan? To bring back a girl child, to think that that girl child will be sacrificed, to have to live with that. But when Krishna makes a plan, miracles happen. The girl child is not sacrificed. In fact, the girl child puts the fear of God in Kamsa. Somehow or other, It all works out in the most impossible way ever. Because this is Krishna. So if our lives go too much according to plan, I start to wonder, is this Krishna's plan or is this my illusion? Because when things happen according to what I think, I just know Krishna will come in with all of his curveballs. But when things don't go according to plan, can we get excited? Thinking, oh, there's my Krishna. My Krishna is showing up in my life, making things difficult just so that he can save me. Kunti Maharani had that faith. I know you've only made things difficult because when there are calamities, then I get to see you face to face. If Krishna showed up to save us, would we even recognize him? That Brahmin somehow understood. Oh no, this is none other than Krishna. And this Bhagavad Gita is none other than Sri Krishna. But if Krishna showed up in our lives to save us, would we recognize him? Would we be able to see the blessing in disguise? Such a good question to ask ourselves, especially on this EKADASI, hearing about this incredibly curious tale of Maharaj Harishchandra, who went from king to serving a dog eater, back to king, all in the course of one pastime. Wife and son sold off and died. But they were revived by the faith he had in the words of the Brahmins. So, can we have that much faith in the words of Srila Prabhupada? When he assured us that if we simply chant our rounds and we follow those 4 regulative principles, and we follow and take full advantage of days like EKADASI, it will give us all the spiritual strength that we need, where no power in the entire universe will be able to touch us. Do we have the faith that Maharaj Harishchandra had in the words of Gautama Muni? Do we have that same faith in the words of Srila Prabhupada? It's a lifelong question to ask. On some days, I feel like I'm winning. And on some days, I feel like I need to reinforce that faith. And on those days when I need to reinforce that faith, which thankfully has been every day recently, I run to Krishna book and I listen to another chapter. I go and listen to a chapter that I've already listened to. I go and read another chapter. Somehow or other, if we can give our lives to Krishna book. Because, sometimes Srimad Bhagavatam seems very long as a whole, yeah? Sometimes it can feel a little daunting to give our lives to that. But Krishna book seems doable. And every time I run to Krishna book, I hear a sentence that I've never heard before. I feel a connection with something that I hadn't connected with before. I feel closer to Srila Prabhupada in a way that I never felt before. And I feel like somehow or other, I'm serving my Guru Maharaj in a way that I've never served before. Because really, all they want from us is to somehow or other become Krishna conscious. So this is the glories of hearing EKADASI. This is the glory of hearing about those who have faith in the words of great saints and sages. Wow, we have people that work at a crematorium funeral home, and they read Bhagavad Gita in the morning. I actually know lots of people who worked in funeral homes and crematoriums and are devotees, which just goes to show that reading Bhagavad Gita in the morning actually is also the most perfect thing that you could ever do, especially that 3rd chapter. That 3rd chapter frees everybody from everything at any time. And you don't have to take my word for it. Those are the words of Lord Shiva to the goddess Parvati when he assures her the reading of that 3rd chapter can free anyone and everyone from all miseries and all miserable conditions in this life and thereafter. So it's the most perfect thing that you're ever doing. And if you do nothing else other than that, I can't wait to see the untold blessings that are waiting for you. We uplift everyone that we're around just by attempting to be Krishna conscious. We just try our best. We let Krishna do the rest. And we thank Srila Prabhupada every second along the way. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, EKADASI Titi ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Acyuta Gopi Devi Dasi, EKADASI Ambassador Ki Jai. Thank you. Wonderful class. Questions, dear devotees? Anybody is going from king to servant of a dog eater? Anybody on that trajectory? Just me? Okay. At least I know it's coming from Krishna. To the extent I'm trying to be his devotee.
It's always coming from Krishna. You know, that's the amazing thing. The being his devotee part is the most natural. It's us who have convinced ourselves that we're trying to do something else. You know, we are his devotees. We've been trying to be material lords and lordettes and kings and queens since time immemorial, but really, our most natural position is we are devotees.
Yeah, underneath the layers. Adipusha Prabhu, Hare Krishna, would you like to glorify Krishna? Would you like to share some thoughts that Prabhupada inspires you to share?
Hare Krishna, can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for encouraging us to follow EKADASI. Every time you speak, I'm thinking, yeah, gotta do this. I heard one time, and I've never read this, but I've heard that Prabhupada said that not following EKADASI is as serious as killing your spiritual master. Did you ever hear that? You heard that?
I did hear that.
But I've heard it and heard it. So apparently, Prabhupada's really encouraging us to do this and take it seriously. And one thing that we mentioned right in the beginning, of course there's no time now, the idea of going and preaching to somebody who's a fallen soul, that their worthiness is because of their falling. One time they had, remember those Jesus freak guys? You'd see them in robes, yeah? I ran into one of those one time and he said, you think that you're holier than other people, and you think that you're helping the sinners. Is that what you think, that you're better than people? And I was like, wow. Well, as far as I know, we're doing this service of approaching people as an offering to our spiritual master and for our own purification. We're just following instruction. That idea of being holier than thou. Yudhisthira Maharaj never thought he was better than anyone. And the gopis, when they thought they were better than other people, Krishna left them right away. So we have to be careful that we may be reaching out to people, offering them opportunity for service, asking for a donation, giving a book. But we do this because the Guru asked us to do it. And it's for our purification and Krishna's pleasure, not because we think we're better. That's really tricky, you know. Okay, that's all I have to share with Srila Prabhupada gave me today. Glory to Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I agree. It's the preaching to versus preaching at.
Or connecting with.
Was that a correction, Bhima Prabhu?
I live to correct Acyuta Gopi.
Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu. Okay, Bhakti Center is here. Okay. Bhakti Center, Temple Room, please unmute and put the camera up just a little bit. Bhakti Center, check 1, check 2, please unmute so we can hear the prayers. Thank you. Jai, Shri Shri Radha Murlidhar, Shri Guru Chandra Ki Jai. Acyuta Gopi, do you have a few minutes to stay over time with us? Great, thank you. Min, let's go. Min has the best questions, always.
Thank you so much for the class. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Something you said when you were sharing the story of Vasudev coming out of the prison off the shekel and that whole story. You know, I read it on Saturday and I didn't really think about his faith actually. When I was reading it, I was sort of just caught up by the drama of it all. And but it was really nice to hear that story, a summary of that story in relation to like when you ask, do you have that much faith that's Vasudev, where he's doing all these things with faith that, you know, that incredible things would happen in such a crazy situation. And it just made me think that, you know, for one to surrender all of it, that it requires such a high faith, and according to one's faith, the capacity for our surrender comes. And I think I just reheard that story in a way because you know, I think about like the topic of surrender pretty often because it's something I struggle with, and I like to do it, but my faith is so little. It just seems like I can't really surrender that much. And intellectually, I could hear you saying, you know, I'm going through some hard times right now or difficulties. And I could tell myself it's Krishna's mercy. There's a better plan. But I don't think in my heart of hearts believe it or have so much faith yet. But I really liked hearing that story, the way you told it, because it made me realize that surrender that Vasudev is offering, is exhibiting, is really not, it's really, I don't think he could do it unless he knew that God loves him so much that there's nothing but God's love in his life. Then in that way, his surrender is really surrender to love of God. Where for me, like, I'm not really sure, you know, what am I really surrendering to? But there's something there that really revealed where, oh, we are surrendering to God's love. And last EKADASI, I actually read the story of Pakasura. And from that story, the image that really stays with me is where when he goes into the mouth of the demon and all his friends are just aghast and they think that he died. And then there's a line where Prabhupada says, Krishna he illuminates from within, and the body of the demon breaks. And I really love that image. And I'm trying to see if I could live with that, you know, as I go through some difficulties. And I mean, I really don't even know what that really means for me, but I yeah, I like that image of Krishna sort of disappearing into the darkness somehow, but coming back with such a force.
Yeah, famously, it is said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, then you tell the mountain to move and it must move. So that's faith the size of a mustard seed. They're tiny. Mustard seeds are nothing really. And so you're saying, I don't know if I have that much faith, but you don't need that much. You just need about the size of a mustard seed, because it is the most powerful force in all of creation. Faith and love of God. And we are not meant to forget that Krishna appears to Vasudeva and Devaki first in a four-arm form. And Krishna says specifically, I appeared this way just to convince you So this is the mother and the father of God, right? I appeared this way just to convince you that the Supreme Person has become your child. Now I'll put the form away. But first, I convinced you. And so, yes, of course, Vasudeva was going to have faith that these things were going to happen because he saw a four-armed baby, like with helmet and jewels and ornaments and all of these things that no other ordinary child could have ever had. And so, it's not that Krishna will see any of your doubts and think poorly of you because of them. That part is natural. Kunti Devi says within Krishna book, Krishna sends a family member to check up on her. And she says, please tell Krishna that I feel like I am a deer surrounded by predators. And my whole family, we all feel like we are deer surrounded by predators that are just waiting to pounce on us at any moment. And she had incredible faith. So faith does not mean that you go through summer and your body doesn't sweat, right? But faith also means then that you're not berating yourself for being sweaty in the summer when it's hot and humid. You understand that that's a natural function of the body. That's what the body's going to do. The natural function of the mind and the tendency of the mind is to bring up all these doubts. That's what the mind is going to do. The natural function of life is it is going to kick us around in some way, in the way that matters to us. Because we might think, oh, but that person's not going through this trouble that I'm going through, because it wouldn't mean the same to them. Your troubles are specifically tailored for you. And the things that are going to trouble them are going to be specifically tailored to them. But make no mistake, everyone is being troubled by material nature. It is simply the myth and the illusion that we feed ourselves that we're not. So faith, I always am reminding myself, does not mean that the body doesn't shiver in the winter and sweat in the summer. Faith means now that we don't let ourselves stop because our body is going through regular bodily reactions, because life is going through life reactions. We don't let that stop us. We keep going. Because as hot as it is in that kitchen, we still feel like we have to eat. And so then we go and we persevere and we sweat through it, but we still realize, okay, it would be so much easier if I didn't have to eat, but I have to, so here we are. We persevere because we have faith that once we eat, our bodies will feel nourished. Even past the sweating and the heat and the discomfort and all the things that happen when it becomes summer and we're stuck in a kitchen. And sometimes if we're doing it for the people that we love, we're not even so focused on the fact that we're that unbearably hot anymore. Now we're focused on, if you're a person that like me that likes to feed the people that they love, then you're just focused on, but when the person tastes it and they're like, oh my God, this is so good, there's something about that. You're like, okay, I don't even care about the energy that it took to do all that. But that's the faith. We have faith in our own personal love languages. And all of those love languages have come from Krishna. So we can have faith in Krishna. And we can have faith in Krishna's love. And even when we don't understand or we think we might miss Krishna and his mercy in our lives, he will appear just to convince us. Just keep going. The same way that he gave assurances to Vasudeva, he will give assurances to us in a way that we can understand. So it might not look like everybody else's way because it doesn't mean as much to them. But for you, men, he'll know exactly what to say to convince you.
Thank you so much. That was really helpful. I have been feeling kind of stuck in my mind and in my heart. Like, where do I go? How do I navigate? Thank you.
Krishna Kumari.
Hari Hari, Radhe Radhe. So nice to hear what you're telling us about sweating. It's like why I'm hearing us like, oh, I wish my kids could hear this. They were passing through the room on their way. My son's moving into college today, so if everyone can bless that he will share Krishna in some way. And then I really was anxious to tell Annabelle, I just love your cow. And very sweet Mother Kalini, who's my everything. She married my husband and I, gave first grains to our children. She's now left the planet. She was the cowherd woman. Every time she saw a cow, she would say, Hare Krishna cow. Hare Krishna cow. And so when I saw your cow, I thought of her saying, Hare Krishna cow. You always feel that way around cows. So great to see you, Annabelle.
I actually just got it from the Goshala yesterday. Or, no, the day before.
Well, that was too quick of a sightseeing. I need to see more of this cow. Oh my God, the cow's too cute.
It's from Radha. It's from Radha. And we were there for a kirtan first. But I named her Daphne because we went down to the Goshala one day and I spent the whole time with this Daphne. The whole time with Daphne.
The Akashvani is wild. She sounds like she's speaking from heaven.
I know if she could just say, "Kamsa, you fool."
Hare Krishna. Acyuta Gopi, any final instructions for us? Words of inspiration?
I actually, more than words of inspiration, I kind of just need all your prayers. Everybody just shower those prayers. Tomorrow morning, I gotta head to Vrindavan. So, everybody shower those prayers just before Radhashtami.
Radhe, Radhe.
You all can send your prayers. I'll deliver
She
them
needs
to
she needs to
Radhashyam.
pray for us in
I
Vrindavan.
know.
If we pray for you, you're going to Vrindavan. Why are we praying for you? You live the life of Riley,
I'll
a
be
singing
carrying them with
Riley.
me. I'll deliver all the prayers to Radhashyam.
Yeah, and then please, at least for me, just a nod to Govardhan and say, man, you got to go crush that guy. Take care of business. Hare Krishna.
Speaking of Govardhan, I think Nortam Nitai Prabhu had his hand raised. Nortam Nitai?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I got invited to come to Vrindavan this morning as well at 1:08 a.m. So, I just wanted to say I'm really inspired hearing your classes and of course your kirtans, and yeah, I keep on praying too, and Krishna's answering my prayers, and I really have to be able to take that leap of faith, and Guru Mukha Padmavakya, right? Spiritual Master's instruction is all in all. And of course, Srila Prabhupada is eternally living in his books. So there's a lot on my shoulders, and there's flood of ideas. I feel like I have to email everybody about what I'm thinking about, and everybody's like, "You're annoying now." So, Hare Krishna, that's for all the mercy.
Thank you, Nortam Nitai Prabhu. Okay, now, Isaiah, please unmute yourself and recite the Maha Mantra loudly and sincerely, like you always do. Isaiah, our reciter. The whole thing, Isaiah, the whole thing. You know the whole thing? The whole Maha Mantra, not the thing. Maha Mantra.
Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Happy Ekadashi, we love you and need you. Thank you, Acyuta Gopi. Please pray for us. Roll in the dust for Bhima. Please.